Tanzania is the latest African state to ratify the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area. The agreement was brokered by the African Union and in Kigali, Rwanda on March 21, 2018. The African Continental Free Trade Area aims to create a single market for goods and services in order to deepen the economic integration and its benefits to Africa. To discuss this, I'm joined in studio by the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I cannot say that acronym. Wamkele Mene joins me in studio. Thank you. He's in from Ghana, where he is based. Mr. Mene, thank you so much for your time. Just give me a broad sense of where things stand. By the way, you are my first guest in studio, not only on this show, but in a very long time, because until now I've been rather extremely cautious about having people in studio, given the context that we are in. Nevertheless, give me a sense of where things stand. So Tanzania is the latest country to ratify. Where does that place you in terms of the initial 44 that it signed up? Ratification is, of course, a different matter altogether. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and for the conversation that we're about to have. In Kigali, Kigali was a historic moment. It was the first step that Africa took towards really integrating our market and overcoming fragmentation of Africa's economy. We now have, out of 55 countries, we have 54 countries that signed the agreement establishing the AfCFTA. We have 41 countries, including, as you said, Tanzania, 41 countries who have ratified the agreement, which means that these countries accept the legal obligations to open markets, to reduce barriers to trade, to reduce barriers to investment, to harmonize trade facilitation procedures, to harmonize customs procedures, to really set our continent, to set up our continent for potential economic growth in the next 15 to 20 years. So we are at a historic moment as a continent. In my view, this is the first time since the end of colonialism in over 60 years that Africa has taken such a very, very critical and important step in ensuring our economic development and independence, our economic independence away from the usual donor-recipient context that we have been in. And second, it gives us an opportunity to accelerate industrialization on our continent. Intra-Africa trade is very low. It is at 18%. If you compare that with intra-European trade, it is at over 70%. Intra-North America trade is over 60%. Yeah. So we are at the lower end of those intra-regional trading arrangements.
So thank you for that update, because we were working off information from perhaps a few weeks and a few months ago where we were still at 38 countries having ratified. You say now there are 41 and ratification means that they accept the legal obligations. What does that mean? Does it mean processes, they're undertaking processes within their countries to achieve the ends that you seek? For instance, the removal of barriers for trade?
It means they're undertaking two tracks simultaneously. The first track is domestic reform, domestic economic reform, to make sure that in the country's laws are consistent with the international obligation. In other words, you have to reform your domestic regime to make sure that the AfCFTA is implemented. If you have laws, whether they relate to financial services, to investment, if you have laws that are inconsistent with the AfCFTA, you now have to amend those laws. And you have to do what lawyers call domestication of the AfCFTA itself in country. The second thing that countries are doing is to make sure that all of the legal requirements that are in the agreement, that they are well positioned to implement them. Trade facilitation, for example, the transit of goods across borders, all of them agreed that there is a set period within which you have to allow goods to transit. So there are two tracks that each country has to take. Some countries are at a better state of readiness than others to implement the agreement. Some countries will take time, and I think we have to be patient and understand that this will take time before we see the agreement being fully implemented. But the critical point is that we've taken the first step. If you look at regional integration in Europe, it has taken Europe precisely 72 years to reach the depth of market integration, economic integration that they have today.
That is now the envy of many in the world.
Precisely. That is now the envy of many in the world. And I believe that we have taken the first step. It may take us 60 years, 40 years, but the most important thing is that Africa has taken the first step towards economic integration.
But do we have that luxury of time, given where we are developmentally and the needs for more intra-Africa trade, for more unlocking of that aspect of our economies?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do not have the luxury of time. In fact, this should have happened 40, 30, 60 years ago. But we are where we are today, and I believe that the best thing is for us to look forward, forget about the past and the mistakes of the past, but to look forward to the potential benefits of this agreement, the potential benefits of market integration. The World Bank projects that by the year 2035, where we implement this agreement effectively, we have the opportunity as Africa to lift 100 million Africans out of abject poverty and out of moderate poverty. And the beneficiaries of those being mainly women in small, medium enterprises. So we have the opportunity to increase intra-Africa trade, to make a contribution to Africa's GDP by the World Bank estimates, $560 billion by the year 2035. That means in concrete terms that there will be opportunities on the ground for small, medium enterprises, for women in trade, for young entrepreneurs. And so these barriers to trade and investment in Africa that we are eliminating actually have an opportunity to make a concrete difference.
That's a good point for us to pause our conversation for a moment and take a quick break, because afterwards, Wamkele Mene will be telling me a bit more about those barriers to intra-Africa trade that they are seeking to eliminate. Stay tuned. This is the Intel on eNCA.